What's up, peeps? Got anybody in here? I see a few comments up there, but I think they've been there a little while. I'm going to give it a minute here, see if anybody's in here, if anybody shows up. I know this is kind of last minute. I just put a notice up a couple hours ago. Thought we got about 5. I think a bunch of people are still over on Rochambeau's live. It's his first live I've got to check out. So excited about that. Also super excited about getting that whole Blade Cartel crew to join us for Knives Live this year. I think that'd be super cool. That'd be exciting. Some of those guys are super entertaining. Put out some great content, and I'm actually going to steal an idea from Mr. Rochambeau when I get done with this unboxing here. Let's see who all we got in here. Constantine's good to see you, brother. You're becoming a regular face, man. That makes me really happy. I like to see you around. Timothy Becker, Crown Fog, Donna Rye, El Cap. El Cap, you get your package yet? Just to Mississippi. I figured it'd be there by now. Jeffrey Dawson. There's good old Kyle Coonley, Sobix, Crispy Critter, and Jeffrey Dawson again. All right. So we got about 9 in here. Guys, I want to touch on a video that dropped this morning. Before I get into this unboxing, I won't spend much time. As you know, I just got the Spyderco Enough 2, and I have never carried a fixed blade in my pocket. You know, I mentioned in the video I was really happy about this curl in the clip, and I was 100% right, man. This thing absolutely locks into your pocket. Now, if you were have to deploy this in an emergency or super fast, I promise you, even if you jerk this knife out, this curl will catch the seam of your pocket and retain that Kydex holster. Or, I'm sorry, I said holster in the video just to see how many trolls I got. Now I've got myself saying it on accident. But yeah, it will retain this sheath in the pocket so that you can deploy this knife. It may rise up some until the curl catches, but this thing works excellent. I literally could barely tell it was in pocket. This nub is so slick. I'm sure if I hit it on something, I'd probably feel it, but otherwise I do not. I carried this in pocket all day today. Didn't do any real serious cutting with it, just opened some things with it, and it's just like, man, it's like a laser beam through nearly melted butter. This thing cuts so good because it's so thin. But yeah, that's what I carried today. Bluminati, good to see you, brother. D Metal, what's going on? Marcus Gamma, always good to see Marcus, man. I tell you what, Marcus is he's right up there in that list of guys that I've just gotten where I can depend on. I know Marcus is always going to at least stop in and check out my content, probably leave a comment. Marcus, that means the world to me. Guys, that is the #1 way to help push the channel. You know, the super chats and channel memberships are awesome. As far as YouTube goes, that's what they're paying attention to. Are people interacting with your content? And Marcos definitely has added to that for me. He's always there. He's always liking, leaving a comment. So that's awesome. Yeah. So quick story. As you guys know, Mr. Bob DeMarco and I have been chatting back and forth in his lives for the past few weeks. It started several weeks ago when he brought up the question of which knife should he try first, the Shaman or the Mannix. I chimed in and gave him my opinion. I feel like the Mannix is the better EDC knife. Guys, I loved my Shaman. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Shaman. It's an excellent knife. I just felt like the Mannix was the better EDC knife. And day in and day out, when I went to pick my EDC for the day, the Mannix it won out way more often than the Shaman did. So that's why I voted Mannix 2. And, you know, Bob had on multiple occasions had stated that he's never had a Mannix 2. You really need to check it out. I don't know how many of you guys are in the same Facebook groups I'm in, but I had my Mannix 2 lightweight that I bought from Chaz. Yeah, Chaz Like Sharp Things. I bought it from him. I'm not going to go into the details, but Chaz did me a super solid on that sale. included something I wasn't expecting. Meant the world to me. But yeah, I actually had several knives for sale, and I sold the majority of them. And I just felt like, you know, as much as I love Bob, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to gift this knife to him. So I shipped him my Mannix 2 in S110V, and he made a couple of videos about it and thanked me for it. And that was really cool of him. And I don't want to work. I see Javon's in here. What's up, Javon? One Moon, good to see you too, buddy. But anyway, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings here, but guys, Bob DeMarco is I don't want to call him my hero, maybe my mentor, whatever you want to say, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Nobody does it better than Bob DeMarco does. Um, if I could be like anybody in the knife community as far as the quality of their content, the originality, the authenticity, if I could mimic anyone, it would certainly be Bob DeMarco. So anyway, so I gifted Bob the knife. He tried on multiple occasions to pay me or to, offer trades. And I was like, no, sir, this is a gift. It's yours. And I knew that wasn't going to float. I knew as soon as I sent it that wouldn't be the end of it, and it wasn't. I got a package actually in the mail the same time I got this yesterday, so it's kind of ironic. You'll see why here in just a second. Because I already took it out of the original USPS packaging. There's a reason behind that. I'm not going to get into why I almost didn't post this video, but anyway. So this is what I got. As you can see by the size of this box, that's it's a big Hogue box. So just by seeing that, many of you are already going to know what it is. So let's get this thing out, check it out. Bob gifted this to me, and man, it means the world to me that he did such a thing. This is the Doug Ritter Hogue fixed blade. Comes in a great canvas sheath. I'm pretty sure, there's a Kydex liner inside there. This is not going to be a pocket carry like this is for me. It doesn't have the clip. This is a mount it on your belt, put it in your Molly webbing, that type of knife. So typically I would think we're getting two fixed blades the same day might kind of that it might, I don't know, decrease the level of excitement about one or the other, but it does not. And this is why, because this is going to be my everyday in the pocket fixed blade, and this is going to be my on the belt camp knife, anytime spent outdoors knife, that type of thing. Because as I stated before, guys, this is a very thin blade stock, not something I would want to hard use. This is just an excellent fixed blade slicer. And to be honest with you, though, guys, this is also not a Shane is your necro except Molly. I'm sure I could get it rigged up somehow, Kyle, if I tried hard enough. Or, I could probably get Grateful Panic or Javon to hook that up for me, since I can barely reach back there because I'm so fat. But anyway, this is what we got, guys. This is the Doug Ritter Hogue fixed blade. It's not a huge fixed blade. I'm going to assume that's a 4-inch blade. Let's see. So I know this is a 4-inch blade, so let's compare them. Yeah, it may be 4.5. As you can see there, I got a mirror edge on this thing from Miss Lacey over at EDC Lace. I will say this knife did not have an impressive edge on it out of the box. As you can see, I still got a little residue on there from the sharpening. I need to clean that off. I did not put a mirror edge on it. I put just I say 1,000 grit, guys. I'll tell you what I do. I use my Veneve stones. I think it's the 150-400, which is actually like a 240 grit and a 1,086 grit, I believe it is. But when I do that, I set my edge bevel with the Veneve 240 grit, and I don't remove that entire scratch pattern with the 1,100 grit Veneve. I only refine it. In other words, I only kind of knock the high points down, so it's not a mirrored edge. It does have some reflectivity to it because of that 1,100 grit that I use. But yeah, I don't make a whole lot of passes with the 1100 grit. Now, I'm sure there are professional sharpeners out there like Mr. Kyle Coonley who will say, you know, you should remove the entire scratch pattern. But the reason I don't do that is I'm not really interested in having a true 1100 grit edge on this knife. I'm not saying that it's the same as a 600 grit. I don't know what you'd call it, kind of a hybrid thing that I do. It works really well for me, especially on steels that I don't want a mirrored edge on because they get too slick. I haven't had any experience with S45 VN, which, by the way, I know I haven't gone over any specs, but this is an S45 VN blade. It says so right there by Mr. Ritter's name. This camera's really bad at getting up close shots. Yeah, I'm gonna have to upgrade this one day. But anyway, yeah, it is S45 VN with G10 handles. So, but anyway, I don't. I know S35. I didn't really like a mirrored edge on it. It just got too slick. So, I kind of approached the S45 the same way. Like I said, I put a 240 grit edge on it. I used the 1100. Probably didn't make more than 15, maybe 20 passes on each side with the 1100. I kind of do it by feel. I can kind of start to feel it. I don't know. I kind of start to feel a transition from it removing that rough scratch pattern, and as soon as that goes away, and I feel that difference in just the way it's gliding across the steel, I stop there. I flip back and forth with the 1100 3 or 4 times each side to really help weaken that burr. Probably not necessary. Like I said, it's just a habit I got into. What's up, Demonot? How's it going, buddy? And then I strop it on a 9 micron hard leather Beavercraft strop. So that's how I came up with this edge, and it has served me very well. As far as the type of cutting I do and the materials I cut, this edge works really well for me. So I've just kind of stuck with it. And let's see here. Damon, are you out already, buddy? It's good seeing you, man. Glad you stopped by. Like I said, it's not near as smooth a cut as that K390 with that mirror edge is. But guys, this is just me on a Work Sharp precision adjust sharpener with the $30 stone holder from Amazon or from Gritomatic, and my one dog series beneath, the only one I own. Like I said, it's the F150/400. This is the edge I come up with. This is the edge that nearly every knife I own has on it. Most of those knives are a 17-degree edge. This one I left at 20. Just in case I did decide to do a little harder work with this thing. Like I said, it's not a extremely thick blade steel. To give you a comparison, this is a fixed blade, and it's not near as thick as this 4-match Scout folder is. So I really wouldn't consider this an extremely hard use knife either. Would I baton with it if my life depended on it? I guess, if I just absolutely had to, I would. However, I wouldn't want to. I've got a big Ontario Rat 7 over there that I've kind of set aside for that type of work. This would just be a more general use around the camp. Cutting some bacon, cutting some paracord, that type of thing, whatever I need to do, whittling a stick because I'm bored, whatever. But yeah, man, I'm extremely proud to have this thing. Guys, there's a kind of an awkward story that goes with this. I'm not going to tell it just yet. It's still a little bit of a sensitive subject, and I'm trying to kind of wait and see if it works itself out. So keep an eye out for that. Maybe I'll get to cover why I almost didn't do this video. Has nothing to do with Bob. Man, I love Bob DeMarco to death, and the reason why I wanted to handle this situation and make this video is because there's the last thing I would ever want to do is disrespect him and what he did for me. Guys, if you get to go to Blade Show, and you only get to meet one person and spend any amount of time talking to them. Out of all the people we know, and once again, I want to hurt any feelings, but if you ask me who that should be, if you get a chance to talk to Bob DeMarco, do it. He is um, absolutely a legitimate good guy. He's 100% authentic. He's exactly who he presents himself as on his channel. I got to spend probably a total of, gosh, I don't know, man, maybe 2 or 3 hours. We talked about everything from knives to the knife community and our personal lives, relationship. I mean, we talked about everything. Um, and I, I embrace every minute of that time that I got to spend with him. So this knife really means the world to me that Bob thought enough of me to send me this out of the blue. Without even knowing the story behind the somewhat drama revolves around this thing. Um, you know, the knife was not brand new. I noticed this little mark on it here. I guess this is either Bob's. Grimy skin, which is perfectly fine with me, or a scuff that he's put on it. But that means even more to me to know that at some point in time, Bob DeMarco used this knife. Completely fine with that. One thing I did notice when sharpening this thing, I don't know, Kyle may be able to chime in if he can see it, but uh, this was probably at 25 degrees when I got it, and I set it to 20. One side, the edge bevel does seem a little wider. Yeah, this side, the edge bevel, as you can see, is a little wider than this side. And it took half the time to put this to 20. I don't know if I made a mistake and I didn't have the knife, perfectly flat inside the clamp, or if it was, that the grind is a little bit off, which we find in knives all the time. So I'm not sure which one it was there. Carco, what's up, buddy? Channel member. Good to see you in here. Pretty Fly. There's another channel member. It's good to see you in here. I want to touch on that again, guys. I appreciate all you dudes that signed up for a channel membership. I'm still learning my way through this, so it may take me a little while to figure out how to make this worth you guys' while. I know I want to do primarily do my giveaways through channel membership. So, and to you guys who gifted channel memberships, that means the world to me. Just kind of a little bit of an update on what I've been doing recently. I have been spending some time in a new Instagram chat group. I've been in a lot of talks with the Blade Cartel chat group. It's a bunch of great guys. I know I'm going to miss some, so forgive me, but the ones I've talked with the most in there are Jason from Puerto Rican with a Knife, Rochambeau, Kevin from Duty's Daggers. I know I've seen Sharif Manganis in there, but we all know Sharif's an asshole and he's always mean to me, so F that guy. But yeah, he's in that same class with Mattis Faction now. But anyway, so I'm really hoping to get those guys on board with Knives Live this year. Javon and I talked about Knives Live some earlier today, and I can't make it official yet. I tried to call and talk to Cole at Tri-State, but apparently Cole talked to Javon today, and it looks like he may have Metal Complex on board to be a part this year. So it's like we may have a lot of new channels. We have a lot of new channels within our little tight-knit community that I want to have on board this year. So I know a lot of you may have opinions about Metal Complex. I've seen some guys post, that they don't care for Metal Complex. But let's keep in mind, guys, this is for Knives Live. And if we can get just a little piece of his 250,000 viewers involved and spread the word about knife rights, or even better, if we can get some of those guys to get knife rights memberships to help Mr. Doug Ritter here, rewrite knife laws in the United States, so that none of our friends that we see in here complaining, I can't have that knife, I can't carry that knife. Maybe you could even make the whole gravity knives are illegal thumbnail and all these videos go away. That would be awesome. But yeah, I posted a thing on Instagram today, a picture of a guy just sitting in a chair overlooking this beautiful landscape, say that this was me enjoying the fact that I could care less about owning a Riot XO. As I'm not bad mouthing the Riot XO. For those of you who got it and love it, I'm super proud for you. It's just not something I'm interested in. But I was actually in Rochambeau's before I came here, and he was doing something. I'm just going to flat out admit it. What's up, JN? Good to see you, buddy. Beaver Baron, good to see you too, man. I'm going to copy something that he was doing while I was there. I know that's unoriginal, but I think it's an excellent idea. So I'm going to give it a shot. Before I do that, I'm going to move the camera, back to my ugly mug. So you guys have to suffer through seeing me. So hang on for the roller coaster ride. Sorry, I don't have dual camera setups. It just is what it is, guys. Yeah. So see if we can get this clamp out of the way. And I'm going to attempt once again. I know you guys are excited to get to see this pretty face. I'm going to attempt once again to share my screen. Hope I've got it pulled up correct. So here we go. Guys, this is Puerto Rican with a knife. The reason why I want to raid his channel, Rochambeau already did a raid tonight. I know there's not many of us in here. But guys, help me spread the word. There is no reason for this dude to only be at 531 subscribers. Zero reason. This guy is super entertaining. Our personalities mesh a lot. We've been talking a lot in Instagram chat. He's a little bit crude. He's super funny. He's just an awesome guy. I'm just going to play one of his shorts. I don't want to, force you guys to sit through somebody else's video. But if you like what you see at all, go over there, leave this guy a comment in one of his videos. Just say Edgy sent me. Give him a subscribe. I don't think he's concerned about getting monetized. You'll see why I say that in a moment. He just loves what he does. He has a genuine love for knives of all kinds. He's a Spyderco fanboy. However, he owns Riots. He owns a little bit of, there he is, with a Best Tech Man. So, I'm going to shut up and let me know if you can hear this audio because I'm not positive how this works, but here we go.
What's up, fuckers? In my pocket today, I got a good one. That's right, an American classic. None other than the Spyderco Native 5. This knife has got an overall length of 6.8 inches. Your handle length's coming in at 4 inches with a blade length of 3 inches. This version is rocking CPM 90V, and it has the fluted carbon fiber scales, which were performed wonderfully. Gorgeous, gorgeous scales. It is a drop point blade with a satin finish. That forward finger choil allows for a full purchase, no refund. Full purchase, no refund. That's right. Pocket clip has got 4 positions, right or left hand, tip up or tip down. The knife is deployed via the trademark Spyderco hole. It is a lockback, one of the strongest locks in the game. $277, and you can have it too. Until the next time, cut something, cut someone, just don't cut yourself. Stay dangerous, fuckers.
Yeah, he starts every video with "What's up, fuckers," and I love it. So, you guys go check out Puerto Rican with a knife. I wish I could do more for him than just the 31 people that are in here, and I know some of you are already subbed to him, but I'd love to, to hear from him saying that, that I sent somebody to his channel. And like I said, I hope to get each one of those guys a slot in Knives Live this year. I'm really excited about that, to see the excitement that those guys can bring. You got his great personality. You got Rochambeau's awesome. That dude could be a radio voice talent easily. He's got a great voice, speaks eloquently. He's from the Pacific Northwest, so you don't have some hick accent like me. You don't have some Puerto Rican ass accent like Jason. So, if you haven't subbed to Rochambeau, check him out too. I know most of you have. I actually saw a good bit of you guys in there before I came here. Mr. Tree Stabbing Troy is in the house. Troy, did you? I'm assuming you received your Adamas by now. I missed Did El Cap mention? I'm sorry, guys. Yep, best dope in the knife game. Absolutely, Puerto Rico with a knife's awesome. El Cap, did you mention whether or not you got your package? I've been watching that fucker for a while. I'm gonna scroll up here and see. I may have missed it. Mr. El Cap got a couple of really cool knives this week. He purchased one from me and one from a friend of mine here in town as well. Since somebody said Scuba Steve, was Super still in here? El Cap, buddy, I'm sorry. I don't see it. If you would, please hit me up again in the comments to let me know that you got that package. No, that was a good bit of money traveling through USPS there, so I'd really love to know that you got it. I'm not going to tell y'all what all he got. I'll leave that up to him if he decides he wants to. Yeah, I got it. There, it's awesome. Where's it? Did I not put stickers in your box, okay? I could have swore I put like 10 of them in there. Are you serious? Are they really not in there? If they're not, buddy, I'll make it up to you. I promise. Because I packaged several knives that day, and I thought I put a couple of stickers in each, but I thought I put like 10 in yours. So if I did not, I will get you some, sir. I promise you that. I have found that my memory is certainly fading. I really need to start utilizing that notepad more often and kind of writing down the shit I need to get done throughout the day and checking it off as I go. Man, I will get it to you, El Cap. I promise you, buddy. I got to get you some. I got to get Zach some. I got to get Big Red some. So I need to go by and pick up some self-addressed or some stamped envelopes anyway. Make that happen. But guys, yeah, I appreciate just the fact that there's 36 of y'all in here. I know there was other stuff to watch tonight. I scheduled this hoping I could, catch close to the end of Neves. I didn't realize that Rochambeau was live. I feel really bad taking anybody from his chat because he was still pretty fresh when I left there. So I'm not going to hang out here long. Just to be honest, pretty selfish reasons, but I really want to check out the rest of his live. It's been a lot of fun getting to know that guy and getting familiar with his content. I spoke to him several times and realized tonight that I wasn't subbed. So that's awesome, Troy. Said he had his. I got mine too. Friday's my edgy American carry day. Knife and flashlight. Flashlight's been in my pocket since Christmas. But freaking Amazon ruined Secret Santa for us this year. I drew Troy's name, and I didn't want to buy him a $40 knife, so I bought him a nice EDC flashlight. And when they shipped it to him, it said, only thing I put in the message was Merry Christmas, and it said Merry Christmas, and then underneath it said from Shane Gables. I mean, I'm sure we were all going to share who we got our stuff from anyway, but just I wasn't expecting Amazon to let him know since I marked it as a gift. But yeah, that was pretty. There was no guess. I didn't have to guess who sent mine. I got a 2X man size onesie with a cat riding a dinosaur shooting lasers out of an AK-47. So I'll let y'all guess who my Secret Santa was. There's Super Still Steve right there, buddy. What do you mean? How dare I wear it? Dude, I was a Georgia fan since Herschel Walker. I was a Georgia fan through the shitty years, so I deserve to get to wear this hat. I figured you would be a Georgia fan, but are you not a Georgia fan, really? That's crazy to hear. I assume you're living right there in Georgia. You ain't one of them traders that lives in Georgia and roots for Alabama, are you? Those are the worst kind, man. Ugh. I say that I live in Alabama and root for Georgia, but how I became a Georgia fan, all my family lives in Cedartown, you just see her town of Rome. And growing up with a single mom, yeah, there he is, Bearded Doom right there. And being raised by a single mom, the day I got out of school at the end of the school year and summer started, literally that day after school, she put me in a car and drove me to Georgia and dropped me off for the entire summer because you couldn't afford a babysitter. Couldn't leave me at home by myself because I was a fucking heathen. So she'd drive me to Georgia and drop me off with all my cousins. And, within the first couple of days, they'd ask me who my favorite football team was. And I'd say Alabama because I didn't know any better. I just thought I was supposed to be an Alabama fan. And they would literally beat the shit out of me until I said I was a Georgia fan. So I finally just gave it up and became a Georgia fan. I didn't have any choice. So, yeah, two coolest dudes on in the YouTube knife community, me and old Scab, we both Georgia fans. It was I was forced into it at an early age, but I stayed dedicated even through the rough years. Watched some of the greatest NFL talents ever come out of a school that could not win a championship to save their lives. Had the utmost respect for Mark Richt and Mark Richt wasn't just a football coach. Mark Richt continued raising and turning children into men through their college years. I'll always have mad respect for that man, whether he could win a national championship or not. It meant the world to me that he was just such a good guy and impacted, some young men that a lot of them didn't have dads growing up, and you watch interviews with them now, and they all talk about, what a great man he was and what an impact he had on their lives. The world can just use more people like that. So that's all I'm getting at. Brandon Sutton, good to see you, man. Like I said, guys, I'm not gonna run this very long. I said probably about 30 minutes. I wanted to get back over there and finish watching Rochambeau, but like I said, I'd already scheduled this, so I wasn't gonna back out. So yeah, I've kind of filled my fixed blade needs for the time being. I don't know if I'll get anything any smaller than this. If I do, it's probably gonna be something I make, but or maybe a custom from old Steve Clarey Custom Knives. But got my Spyderco enough too in K390. That's my pocket fixed blade. Got my Doug Ritter Hogue fixed blade here for all that time I spent in the woods. My fat ass ain't walking nowhere. But anyway, Rochambeau's over. My bad. So yeah, got my fixed blade fix for the time being. Guess what I'm getting at. But yeah. So I don't guess there's any need going anywhere then if Rochambeau's already ended. I assumed he had a little while to go. But so I guess we'll just hit up the chat here and see what's going on. LCAP says I can't see it either, Brandon. Are you talking about something I showed, or are you talking about something that? Oh, here we go. How come I can't see Doom's comment in the chat? That happens with other folks too. Man, I don't understand the YouTube comment section at all sometimes, because I know I check my phone 3 or 4 times a day, and I go to my videos or my notifications. Used to, I just went to the notifications, and I would always at least like any comment somebody left. Well, then I realized they don't all show up in notifications, which doesn't make any sense. So I started going to the video itself, opening the comment section, make sure I liked them all. And recently, since I've had to start using YouTube Studio more, I've had to. I noticed that there's a section there for comments. I had missed hundreds of comments. And I noticed when I pull up a video, it'll say it has 40 comments, and I'll count them, and there's 17. I don't understand why it hides some of them from me. I've tried switching from top comment to newest comment. I'm telling you, it just hides some of them for some reason. I don't get it. But, yeah, it just does that. So, I scroll through that comment section and try to like all those. If I've ever ignored a comment from you guys, it wasn't because I chose to ignore it. It's just because for some reason YouTube don't show them all to us. I don't get it. But There's y'all's answer right there. That's why y'all couldn't see Doom's comment. I couldn't see Doom because it was considered a low quality comment. That'll do it. You type some bullshit, YouTube ain't gonna post it. Yeah. It does, Kyle, but I counted those too. I mean, literally, the one I have in mind said I had 40 comments. I went and looked, and it showed I had there was only like 12 comments, but some of them were questions, so I'd answered them. So I counted the comments and the replies, and all I could see was 17. I refreshed it, same. But then, like I said, I go to YouTube Studio and click on comments, and there was literally hundreds since I've started my channel, all the way back to day one. There was just hundreds of comments that I've missed. I can see them all there, but I don't get it. I just don't. I'm glad you brought that up, Steve. I've been thinking a lot about that recently. Maybe I need to have a conversation with you and find out if I I've got a Rumble account, but if I put it on this computer, I'm wondering if when I go live or when I make videos, if it's as simple as just clicking on Rumble as well to download it there, because I do think I want to start posting all my stuff on both platforms. I know you've been in, some of my Sunday night lives, and I don't want to change who I am and what I talk about and how I speak or anybody else. I don't want to censor myself or anybody, but I know YouTube is cracking down on profanity. It could, they could shut me down tomorrow if they wanted to. They do some digging, and some of our subject matter tends to be a little adult, so I like to at least have that as a backup. I wish I want more than nothing than if tomorrow morning everybody just woke up and decided, you know what, I'm going to get a Rumble account. I'm going to start watching all my content there, and we could all just start posting on Rumble and not have to worry about censorship or hurtful words or pronouns or whatever it is that's hurting people's feelings nowadays. I think that would be great. But, you were right. You called it. You said, hey, guys, I'm going to start posting my cut test on Rumble, start posting all my videos there, and I guarantee you guys don't follow me. And they didn't. I didn't either. I'll be honest with you. I went there a few times to watch your content just because I'm old and I wasn't familiar with how how it works. I struggled to find your stuff sometimes, and I just gave up. So I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I do wish that we could all do that, but we may not have a choice one day. It's looking a whole lot like it. I just heard that there's another one called oh gosh, already forgot the name of it. And they were telling me, he was even telling me that they pay the content creators more than YouTube does. So, well, no. That was actually LCAP that was shitting on you. I was bragging about the high quality Christmas gift that you bought me for Secret Santa. LCAP's the one that went there, which is highly unusual. I've never seen LCAP mess with anybody, so that makes it even funnier. And you guys don't forget to keep LCAP in your thoughts and prayers, man. His I know it's been rough on him. His dad had to have quadruple bypass like I did. That's hard on everybody around you, man. It takes work from everybody to help you get over that. So keep him in mind. From what I hear, he's doing really good, though. So that's awesome to hear. But yeah, Cap, I agree. I don't want the conversation to get too political, but I'll try. But if I don't know, and I have no way of knowing or no way of guessing, and I call you what science says you are, what you were born as, and that offends you, then I'll just pre-apologize because I can't help that. So yeah, I got you. I understand 100% there. What Kyle say? I sat on Doom's lap. Oh. I sat on Doom's lap because and didn't get a gift. Doom, you can go to Hims for just a couple of bucks a day and get that taken care of. Doom saying he got a gift though. That's awesome. Greg Maroney, it's good to see you in here, buddy. Did Steven Crowder join Rumble? That's good to hear. I I don't really. About a year ago, maybe a little longer now, I'm getting horrible at keeping track of time. I decided to quit keeping up with politics altogether. I was just done with it, man. I found that it had me pissed off, and it was turning me into a person I didn't want to be. I didn't like the fact that I had to be one thing or another. I had to be right or left or conservative or liberal because, I think there's good points on both sides, but it was like, the media and society was making you pick, and that pisses me off. I don't agree 100% with anybody on anything. So, how am I supposed to take a side? But I do enjoy sarcastic, uh, humorous political banter, such as what you get from Crowder and several others actually. But I still have to kind of avoid it a little bit because, man, sometimes I find it getting my blood pressure up, pissing me off. So I have to, yeah, I just had to bow out all that, man. And it was actually a video that I watched by a gentleman named Derek Weeda. I don't know if you know who Derek Weeda is, but he's a you know war on terror vet who lost his leg over in the Middle East, and now he competes in CrossFit competitions. He's just an absolute beast. Watching that guy do deadlifts and squats with one leg is amazing. Just chiseled out of stone. Probably taking a needle to the ass every now and then if I had to guess. I don't know, but he used to put out some really funny videos. Just about how to be a man, and um, it was highly entertaining. But he put out a video one time about the political side of things, and he stood there and he's held his arms straight out. I can't hardly do it. I'm in a corner like this, and he's like, "This is what I worry about. This space right here. If I can't put my fucking hands on it, and I can't affect it, or I can't change it, I don't worry about it." And that really sunk in with me. And that was the day I thought, you know what? I'm not watching any more of this shit. I'm not clicking on any more of it on Facebook. I'm not posting anything else about it. And the algorithm did exactly what it was supposed to do. Within about 3 months, it all went away. The world could be on fire. World War III could have started, and I'm not going to know unless it happens to pop up on my YouTube algorithm under top news. So, I've been a lot happier for it. I was in a really dark place already with my own, you know, this area right here. I wasn't taking good care of it. That put me in a bad place, and then you pile all that negative political bullshit on top of it. It was really, really bad for me. Look at who has joined us, guys. Look at here. If it ain't no dick and balls. Awesome to see dick and balls in the comment section. Maddie, if I get demonetized for saying dick and balls, I'm taking you and your kid down. You got me? You understand what I'm saying? You hear me? Anyway. Pretty fly. I have a feeling. Oh, I see some political news stuff coming. I have a feeling when World War III hits, we aren't going to need a broadcaster warning to know. Yeah, probably right. I still don't think that's going to happen. I think, my honest opinion, I think society is just going to collapse globally. I don't think it's any better anywhere else than it is here. We've got the feelings of 0.5% of the population affecting everybody. Anyway, I just don't get it. But it is what it is. I've heard that, Greg Broney. I've heard that they will do that. I probably would be interested in microdosing if that helps. I've heard that it does great things. I don't want to be on hallucinogens every day because I am a extreme lightweight. If you've ever been on Said Fashion on Friday night and see me after eating, or not see me, but reading in my chat after I've eaten a gummy, I don't know that I can handle doing much mushrooms. So, Dick and Ball's got timed out. Who in the world would do such a thing? Wasn't me. Not this time. Yeah. I bet you. I'd be willing to bet. Well, there's no doubt about it. Kyle Coonley's the only person here with a wrench. So we know Kyle Coonley time dicking balls out. So there you go. That's something missing in this world, LCAP. This entire world could use a little more empathy. Um, nothing wrong with being empathetic. It's not a sign of weakness. However, when it's expected and it comes to a point that you're stepping on your rights and not returning said empathy, that's when it becomes a problem. Yeah, yeah, that's what worries me. I do get a little paranoid even on edibles, so kind of scared. I probably have to be in the right company to try that the first time. Deon Page giving me some dosage advice there. I see. I can't believe my boy Vince ain't in here. He's probably licking a fire hydrant somewhere on the other side of town underneath a train bridge, if I had to guess. Kyle, don't be talking about Vince. You know how easily his feelings get hurt. I don't like YouTube did that either. I'm assuming it's because somebody complained that it was affecting their mental health when they were seeing dislikes, so they had to take it down. Yeah. I agree with Javon about hate, not debate, or something like that. Yeah, Javon preaches that shit, but I've seen him be pretty hateful a few times myself. Nothing wrong with a little debate. It's even better when it leads to punching somebody in the fucking mouth. But whatever. You're 100% right, Jeffrey. It's a complete waste of time, dude. If you can't lay your hands on it and affect it, mold it, make it do what you want it to do, you're wasting your time. And time is our most precious resource. Something we have very little of. You don't realize it till that day. Gosh, I almost feel bad bringing this up, but you don't realize it till that day that you realize that you've got more past than you do future. Literally, the day that I realized that changed my life in a negative way. So don't dwell on it. JN, I don't think Maddie's got a wrench. He is a channel member. Channel member. But yeah, I don't think he can put people in timeout. Deon Page in the house. Good to see you, buddy. I don't know why it is when I hear Deon Page, I always think of a UFC fighter. Who's that guy in Bellator? His last name is Page. Um, kind of has that Israel Adesanya personality, kind of. He did the whole Pokemon thing. Threw the Pokemon ball at the guy after he beat him that night. Made himself very famous. I should be thinking of Diamond Dallas Page, but I'm not. I'm thinking of the UFC fighter, JUNKIE. Yes, shower me with praise, for I support Shane while supporting my child, who will need Shane. I hope not. I hope you keep his scrappy little ass in Arizona, so I ain't got to worry about him. Constantine, ain't that the damn truth? God, man. Hmm. That's a rough one to think about. At least that's one you ain't gonna have to bury. You ain't gonna have to shed a tear, maybe. Yeah. What is that dude's name? Surely somebody in here's watched Bellator and knows what I'm talking about. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking his last name is Page. Somebody said there's a Page, there's a WWF diva. Michael Venom Page. That's it. Thank you, Troy. I knew you'd come up with it. Well, he had a huge future ahead of him. Then he got his ass knocked out cold and kind of slowed it down a little bit. You're right, dude. You still call it WWF. You know you're old. You're around for the yeah. I mean, I was right there watching Hulk Hogan body slam Andre the Giant all the way up until Stone Cold retired, and then I was done. You know, the Attitude Era I thought was the best wrestling I'd ever watched, or at least the best stories. And when it was over, I was done. You know, Vince McMahon's a damn genius, though. You know, because the Attitude Era wasn't just wrestling. He was following pop culture. You know, music had gone into it, the Attitude Era. You know, you had Eminem talking about how shitty his mom was, and Fred Durst getting all the negative publicity he possibly could, because any publicity is good publicity for a rapper. But yeah, very smart man. Brad Sutton, Paige Van Zandt. I was gonna bring up Paige Van Zandt now. That's a whole different. Actually, I'll let you and Kyle Coonley talk about that. Kyle will tell you Paige ain't my type. So yeah, I'm more of a Stacy Keibler type. Doesn't have to be that tall, but that body type, that's my jam. Not so much Paige. But hey, hats off to her for buying some boobs and making a bunch of money on OnlyFans. Constantine may have dropped a name I don't know. Dick the Bruise Crusher Butcher Vashon. I don't know who all that is. You're not wrong, Pretty Fly. You've paid attention. I'll give you that. Yeah, actually, I go back before Hulk Hogan. My first my first memories of wrestling were back in the days of Bullet Bob Armstrong and Austin Idol and all those guys from Georgia Championship Wrestling. I think it changed to Continental Championship Wrestling or something after that. But yeah, I remember all those days, Hardy Race and Dusty Rhodes. I was very young then, so a lot of those bloody matches back then were a little rough for me. But yeah, I, I really loved it. And one guy I think that doesn't get enough credit, growing up in the South in Alabama, my dad, I've talked about him before, he was a complete piece of trash, absolute white trash garbage. But, it's needless to say, I grew up around somebody who was, I don't even want to give the guy credit for being racist, because I don't think he was ever dedicated enough to anything to even be considered racist. But he was closet racist, Um, he wasn't brave enough to be racist in front of anybody, but he was at home when nobody was listening. And I'm only telling you that to tell you that um, I didn't think about it when I was a kid, but as an adult, I got to thinking about uh, the Junkyard Dog, JYD. Junkyard Dog got big on Georgia Championship Wrestling right here in the South in the 70s. And it's hard for some of you guys to believe that maybe you live in a different part of the country, a different part of the world, but racism was still a pretty big thing in the South then. Like I said, for most people though, it was more closet racism. It was telling racist jokes with their buddies around. Wasn't like they were going out and starting fights with black people just because they didn't like them. They were too chicken shit to do that. But there was just a lot of it. And to think back on it now and think of the thousands, maybe tens of thousands, could be hundreds of thousands of kids that idolized the Junkyard Dog. That was the first. That was the first. He was literally the first black celebrity I knew. He was the first and only black guy that was my hero. And I didn't even think about him being black. It never crossed my mind that he was a different color. I would mention that he's black to describe him to somebody, but it just, race just didn't matter. That guy was so cool that, he was he was my hero. He was a lot of kids' hero. He even made it on the cartoons, and I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves for for building those those racial bridges that he did. And kind of starting into motion this whole generation of white kids that wouldn't have had that without him. I really hope before he passed away that somebody had the opportunity to acknowledge him for that, even if it was just one person, that wrote him a letter or whatever, and told him that he had that impact on their life, because he certainly had it on mine. But yeah, Shane's cousins were the Bushwhackers. Weren't the Bushwhackers from Australia or something though? Something like that. Yeah. Yep. JYD had a rough life. I wouldn't doubt it, man. I'm sure a lot of those guys came from. I remember watching CCW every weekend with my uncle. We didn't have cable where I live. We lived too far out in the boonies for cable at the time. Couldn't afford a satellite. Matter of fact, when I was a kid, I don't think there were satellites yet. In my teenage years, they were, and they were the size of your house. But I remember watching every weekend, and the Freebirds were, they were the ultimate heels, man. They were just so crass, and but nobody could beat them. You just couldn't, because if it was Michael P.S. Hayes and I can't remember the little short, chubby, blonde-headed guy. They always had Terry Gordy on the outside to cheat, so nobody could ever beat them. And man, I remember it being the highlight, probably the greatest moment in wrestling, bigger than Hulk Hogan beating Andre the Giant. I hope I'm back. It blacked out for a second. I'm going to give it a second. On my screen, I'm still froze. So, yeah, looks like it came back on. Anyway, we were watching one day, and they kind of impromptu booked a match with the Freebirds because, they were bragging about winning some big match. I don't remember. But anyway, they booked a match with the Freebirds versus Austin Idol, the Junkyard Dog, and Andre the Giant. I remember it was the first time I ever got to see the Freebirds get their asses whipped, and I absolutely loved it. Because up until that time, a lot of people don't remember this, but all of Andre's matches were they were corny exhibition things with him and two, what they call journeyman wrestlers, guys that weren't very good. And he always did them the same way. He'd pile them on top of each other, sit on them, and pin both of them. So, to get to see Andre the Giant, JYD, and Austin Idol defeat the Freebirds was awesome. Mostly because of JYD. But yeah. Kyle, we put on WWF wrestling every lunch break. We got an hour for lunch during A school. That's the school you go to right after boot camp. So, we're all a bunch of 18 to 22, 23-year-old males, and every day at lunch, we didn't eat lunch. We went back to the barracks. We had all the furniture pushed against the walls, and we would have, we'd have Royal Rumbles for 50 minutes of our 1 hour lunch break every day. There was numerous injuries that, everybody kept their mouth shut. You weren't about to admit that you suplexed somebody off of a table, and that's how their collarbone got broke. Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. Yeah, there was a big rumor. There's a local radio personality here. He came from Gaston, right here where I grew up. And he moved to Birmingham, and now they're kind of nationally syndicated. Let me know in the chat how many of you guys have heard of the Rick and Bubba Show. It's kind of a conservative Christian talk radio in the mornings. But Rick Burgess's dad was a football coach at Jacksonville State, and Rick denies it, but I think he's supposed to. The popular opinion is that Rick Burgess's dad was Mr. Wrestling. I don't know if you guys remember Mr. Wrestling. He just wore a plain white lucha libre mask, but I mean he was clearly American. There's no said Stevie. Look at there, man. Yeah. You're right, Blade Ogre. That was a big deal right there, man. Sure was. I can't believe we're talking about wrestling, but whatever. I didn't have anything else to talk about. Just out of curiosity, now it's kind of curious, because I know they're nationally syndicated. Have any of you guys heard of the Rick and Bubba Show? It's on the radio all over the country. I know Rick Burgess. I used to work on his car. He drove a shit box, blue Cavalier. Was beating all four corners, and now the guy's literally a multi-millionaire off of his nationally syndicated radio show. It may not reach as far out as you guys are, but I know they're all over the Southeast. George the Animal Steel, yeah. You guys remember when George the Animal Steel tried to steal Miss Linda from Macho Man? Said Stevie was a wrestler. Said Stevie's still a wrestler. He just wears a mask. OG wrestling. Why haven't we talked about this before? Well, you know, when you get to talking about old school wrestling, it's funny, you know, because, you know, back then they still had, what was it they called it? It wasn't jurisdictions, but they had a word for it. Everybody had their area. And it was just a big deal, man. If somebody, you know, jumped ship, went somewhere else, they'd get blackballed. Those guys still, you know, they're still involved, man. There's still a lot of these little local independent shows you can go to and still meet them, and some of them still hate each other. Nick Buckwinkle. I remember that name. I couldn't put a face to it. Yeah, territories. Yeah, everybody had their own territories. And eventually, Vince McMahon's dad bought them all up and pretty much handed to them. Yeah, that's one of the few examples of a dad handing his son a business and him really excelling with it. But Vince was perfect for that job. You know, he tried to hide the fact that he was the owner for a long time. He was just a commentator. That didn't work out, though. Everybody figured out Trish Stratus. I remember Trish Stratus is the first girl I ever saw that had top butt cleavage. What I mean by that is the top of Trish Stratus's butt was as cheeky as the bottom. I'd never seen that before on any chick. She may be the originator of the Instagram butt. So, yeah. Still not as hot as Stacey Keebler. Dude, she would step over that second rope and dip down under the top. Jesus Christ. Of course, you know, I've talked about it before. I may have a little bit of a panty fetish. So I got to see them panties. That drove me a little crazy. Yeah. Oh, Bearded Doom, I remember Stunning Steve too. I'm sure everybody knows the story of how he switched. His career wasn't really excelling the way he wanted. He was trying to come up with a new persona, and his wife at the time was British, and she made him breakfast one morning, and she told him to eat his biscuit before it got stone cold, and he was like, Stone Cold Steve Austin. So Arn Anderson's kid just passed, 37 years old. I didn't hear about that. I bet my wife did, though. She just out of nowhere 2 years ago became a huge independent wrestling fan. Craziest thing I've ever seen. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, also a childhood hero who turned out to be an absolute horrible human being. Didn't he kill his wife or something? He killed somebody. I don't remember. But apparently, yeah, Ricky Steamboat was a really, really bad person. Adrian Adonis. I remember Adrian Adonis. Yeah. Call it a night. Illuminati is good having you here, buddy. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you representing with your sticker right there on all my tabletop videos too. Sting was better than them all. I don't know about Sting was better than them all. He had a really good thing going there for a while, and I don't know. You know what? You're right. It was Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I'm talking, not Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I apologize, guys. It was Jimmy Snuka that killed somebody, and I think he got away with it. But yeah, not Ricky. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It was Jimmy Snuka who turned out to be a horrible person. But you're right. I don't say he was the best. I think there was somebody out there who was just as good as Jimmy Superfly Snuka, but I don't think he ever made it as big as Snuka. He made it pretty big, but if you go back now and watch his matches, probably the most perfect wrestler I've ever seen, even better than Snuka or Steamboat for that matter, was Rob Van Dam. I don't think his personality caught on as well as theirs did, but as far as technical expertise, fluidity between moves, making everything look supernatural, nobody was better than RVD. Yeah, WrestleMania 3, Hogan versus Andre. Andre shouldn't have even been in that ring. He was literally dying when they did that match. Because there was a question about whether or not Hulk was going to be, because Hulk Hogan can't pick him up by himself. Everybody that watches wrestling knows they squat some, and they use their leg strength to propel themselves up there. They didn't know if Andre would be able to do it. But yeah, RVD was the man. He very few people remember him as well as they should, but go back and watch them right now. Just YouTube Rob Van Dam and watch his matches, dude. Nobody better than RVD. I'm not saying he was the best. There may be some people as good, but damn, that dude. It just never stopped either. I don't know if he just rehearsed more often with his opponent or what, but he just made it look better than everybody else did. Big, huge satellite disc. Yeah. There was a tire shop here in town that the gentleman that owned it learned how to manipulate those cable boxes so you could get the free pay-per-views. And this would have been back in, I don't know, at least between 2000 and 2005, I think, somewhere in that time range. It was like $350 for one of his unlocked cable boxes or satellite boxes. So if you got a satellite dish, $350, you could buy his receiver, and everything was available. Everything. And believe it or not, back then, everybody I knew bought them. It wasn't for porn. It was for WrestleMania. Or all the wrestling things. And I'll never forget when you're during WrestleMania, they let the first 2 or 3 fights happen, and then like the first big match. It wasn't the title match, but the first big match that came. No, I take that back. It was Royal Rumble. They had a couple of small matches before the Rumble was supposed to start, and then right when the Rumble started, during the countdown for the first guy, they wiped every one of those boxes at the same time. And everybody in town hated that guy because there wasn't nothing he could do about it. And if you kept that thing for 2 months and used it daily, you got your money's worth out of it if you paid for all the, Showtime and HBO. Because I don't know if you guys remember that back when that shit was expensive. So, yeah. Yeah, Razor Ramon, boy, that's a tragic story. That dude ruined himself. So many of them did, though. Yeah. Carco, I've never been put in walls of Jericho, but probably the most impressive thing I've ever seen was when Triple H tore his quad, and you could literally see his entire quadricep slid up his leg bone. It was wadded up close to his crotch, just this big wad of muscle. It tore completely loose, and that was the night that I gained a lot of respect for Triple H because I wasn't a fan. But the fact that he continued that match and still let Chris Jericho put him in the walls of Jericho with his quad wadded up in his crotch, that's unbelievable, man. That's dedication right there. That dude deserves anything he's got. Who's Kyle talking about? Yeah, Kyle, the British Bulldog was my favorite wrestler for a long time. Everybody loved the Hart brothers, but the British Bulldog was my favorite. He was, probably one of the most jacked dudes I've ever seen. He was right up there with JYD when it comes to physique. So you've heard, is that the rumor going around, Troy, that Channel 24 was the Playboy channel? There was some better channels on the Playboy channel, I can promise you that. There were some good ones out there. You're right, dude, but we've all done it, dude. We've all sat there and watched some squiggly lines hoping it would stop for just a second. You could get to see some nips or bush. Everybody did it. Those who didn't are probably liars. Yeah. Yeah. Macho Man was a hell of an entertainer. No doubt about that. I was watching that, Steve. I saw it literally, dude. It almost turned my stomach. I knew he'd fucked up. I think everybody knew. Nobody's supposed to land like that. There ain't no faking that. I remember Vince McMahon. I'd interviewed him about that. And he was talking about that he told. First of all, he told Brock not to do it. Told him not to even try it. And then after that, told Brock if he ever attempted it again, he'd fire him. I was watching the pay-per-view and Owen Hart died, and if you were watching it live, you still couldn't see it. They had a 1 minute delay, so nobody got to see it. But I was watching. I couldn't believe they can, and I paid for it, and I wouldn't have an issue at all if they just canceled it. But Vince didn't. Show went on. 10 rows from the ring, huh? Whew. Yeah. Starts I couldn't imagine seeing it live, but man, it was hard enough watching it. I might have been able to see it better than you could live from home. But what really killed wrestling for me, like I said, was the end of the Attitude Era, and then a buddy of mine was like, "Hey man, have you heard of this UFC thing?" No. So he brings this VHS tape, this grainy ass VHS tape, over to my house, and we watched the first one. What's weird is I really can't even remember how they advertised it. I can't remember how we knew when they were coming, because I didn't even have cable. I didn't even have satellite. Like literally, when I moved out at 18 and went into the military, we still didn't have that. But somehow we would find out when they were going to be, and they had two at the Birmingham State Fairground Arena. I went to both of those. I didn't go to the one in Dothan, but I was there when was it? I was there when Mark Coleman. No, I know I saw Mark Coleman beat Don Fry, and I think that was the same night that Tank tried to throw the guy out of the cage. Something really cool happened at that UFC that not many people know about. But Tito's group, his entourage, and Tank's entourage, because they used to be buddies that had fallen apart. They got in a fight in the crowd. Like as they were coming to walking one of them out, some of them were sitting there. This huge brawl broke out. I mean, there was blood. It was nasty, dude. I never got it stopped. None of that made it on the TV. Nobody even knew it happened. But yeah, there was a big brawl. People having to jump out of their chairs, and yeah, that was back during the barbaric days. I got to go to those, and it was funny because back then, they were selling pay-per-views, but not that many people showed up for it. Like I said, it was horribly advertised. And I still can't remember how we even found out about them, but we bought the cheapest seats in the house. But big, Birmingham Fairgrounds Arena is not big anyway, so it didn't matter. But right before the recording started, they told everybody that had bad seats to move down so that it looked like the place was full, and they turned the lights off on the top. So we got like third row seats for, I don't remember, $7-8 a piece. It was dirt cheap. And we were sitting where we were sitting. The ring girls were, man, I could touch them. They were that close. This is before the Ariani days and all that. I don't know who they were, but we could hear the ring girls talking about the after party and where it was going to be. And it was going to be at the hotel they were all staying at, which was the Tutwiler in downtown Birmingham. So as soon as the fight was over, we headed to the Tutwiler, waited in the parking lot about an hour, give them time to get stitched up, whatever, to show up. And we went in just before they all started pouring in, so nobody would question us, That, and it was it was an open bar anyway. It wasn't like it was closed down. But I didn't want to get thrown out, and I didn't know, I wasn't really sure at the time if we were supposed to be in there, so I just sat there and sipped on a beer and kept my mouth shut. I didn't speak to anybody. I didn't want to take any chances of ruining it. But I was sitting there, and to my left was Big John McCarthy, and the other side of Big John was Mark Coleman. And on the other side of the bar was Don Fry. And, Coleman had just beat Fry that night, which broke my heart because I was a big Don Fry fan. But I got to hear Mark Coleman and Big John McCarthy's conversation. And Mark Coleman was telling Big John, he's like, so, dude, I've been in a bunch of fights. He said, I've hit a bunch of people. He said, countless people sparring. He said, I'm telling you. He said, I hit that dude, talking about Don Fry, as hard as I've ever hit a man. He said, I swung as hard as I could and landed a perfect shot on him. He said, and he backed up and grinned at me. This is the first time in my entire life I've ever been scared of a man. He said, the fact that he took that punch and smiled at me, he said, only time in my life I've ever been scared of a human being. Of course, he still won, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah, Crazy Horse was a lot of fun to watch. In the cage, backstage, wherever he got in the fight. Who was it knocked Crazy Horse out? Knocked him out cold backstage. It's kind of somebody that probably shouldn't have, too, or you wouldn't think would have been able to do it. Somebody knocked Vanderlei out backstage. Was it Crazy Horse that knocked Vanderlei out? I can't remember. Yeah, Troy, I'm still a Don Fry fan too, man. I like to watch anything he does. Ian, I do remember Pride. In all honesty, Pride FC was a better organization than UFC. First of all, because you could stomp a guy in the face and he was on the mat. But yeah, Patina, you've told me that before. Check this out, guys. How cool is this? I've seen Tank fight multiple times at a bar I used to hang in Huntington Beach back in the day. Tito as well. I never understood why people pick fights with him on either. But hey, if you guys want to watch something really entertaining, if you're into MMA, go to Andrew Schultz's podcast. I think it's called Flagrant, and watch his interview with Chael Sonnen. Dude, I was always a fan of Chael Sonnen because he was kind of a wrestling personality in the UFC. But if you watch that and you get to really see who he is, dude, he's one of the most amazing human beings I've ever listened to. And he shares so much information on there, things that I had no idea about. Like Chael Sonnen had the nickname the American Gangster because he literally was. Chael Sonnen. This is what happened. This bank, apparently somebody from the bank approached Chael's grandmother and talked her into doing a reverse mortgage. And once she signed the papers and they realized that she wasn't in the capacity to understand what she was even doing. They never even gave her the money, but they showed up to foreclose on her house. And Chael and the rest of them like, what do you mean foreclose on her house? So she signed these loan papers. She hasn't paid the payments. We're foreclosing. Never got the money. They were just ripping the lady off. Well, so Chael proceeded to steal $15.2 million from this bank over a period of time. Never walked into a bank with a gun. He did it all wire fraud, and stole $15.2 million. And when they finally caught him, they gave him probation and charged him a $10,000 fine. All in exchange for Chael telling them how he did it. That's all they wanted. They just wanted to make sure it never happened again. So he got to walk away scot-free, and for the $15.2 million he sold it, he stole, it cost him 10 grand. At the end of the story, he explains that his grandmother died in that house with a brand new Cadillac in the garage. Just an awesome dude. Yeah. Tito never married her, Ian. That's on the show too, because Chael accused Tito of Chael of using his mouth to get famous, and Chael said the only person that's ever used their mouth to get famous was your wife. And Tito was very quick to let him know that they never got married. They had a child together, but they never were married. Yeah, Kyle just said right there. Yeah. He covers all that on Andrew Schultz Flagrant. Dude, even if you're not a Chael Sonnen fan, it's amazing to listen to that guy's stories, man. They are awesome. Yeah. Yeah, Chael even mentions that was the most embarrassing night of his life. It's the fact that he lost to Tito. It was a pure fluke because Tito, he claims Tito was the worst fighter that the UFC had ever had. But I think Chael was out of his prime when that happened too, if I remember correct. I don't think that's her name, Troy. He married. Well, that might be her. Brock Lesnar married that WWE diva. I can't remember her name, but you're right. She's considerably older than him, and had some plastic surgery to try to stay young, and it didn't go well. I can't remember her name though. Yeah, Sable. Yeah, I think they're still married and got a kid together, but I think she would have been better off just aging because that plastic surgery didn't go very good. Yeah. Man, you're right. He did have some good wins back in the day, but that was also during a time when it was still kind of one discipline versus another. And Tito, I'm not saying he was the first, but he was probably one of the better guys at cross training and learning a little bit of everything. The sport just outgrew him. That's why he started losing so badly. But he definitely had persona. The UFC needed Tito. The UFC needed Tank, because up until that point, it was just some karate guy versus a wrestler, or some sumo guy versus a taekwondo guy. Names didn't mean anything. There were no personalities until Tank and Tito and Dan the Beast Severn. They started getting nicknames, and people started learning their personalities and becoming fans of particular fighters. Yeah, I don't remember who it was, said they're still a Don Fry fan, but I bet you I've watched that fight with him and that big 6'8" Korean guy at least 100 times, dude. Just that slobber knocker, them holding the back of each other's heads, just pounding each other, man. That was so good. That was the kind of shit you saw in Pride. You rarely ever saw something that exciting in the UFC. Or Vanderlei heel stomping somebody right in the forehead. Rampage knocking people out with power slams. It was good stuff. Well, Ian, he's a heavyweight champ now. I mean, he's still super rich. But you're right. I mean, who knows how big his career could have been? How much money he wasted? That's one thing Chael talks about too. Is this whole, like how Jake Paul's constantly going after Dana about fighter pay. Because all Dana's telling y'all is their contract pay and their pay-per-view percentage if they qualify for it. What they don't talk about, and he's trying to save these fighters from, having to report all their income, is all the internet revenue that they get that nobody talks about. And Chael was probably one of the first to be smart enough to know it existed and started getting a cut. It's like in his fight with Anderson Silva, Chael made $8.8 million. Now, if you look at the contract, it probably showed he made $250,000. But he made $8.8 million, and the champ, Anderson Silva, only made $3 million because Anderson wasn't smart enough to know that there was all this internet money being just pouring in. Chael was one of the first to know that and know how to manipulate it with his personality. Yeah. Yeah, Ian, I stood probably, I could have touched him. I was that close to Randy Couture at the UFC Fan Expo. That is a little bitty dude. That is a tiny ass man. I don't know how he ever fought heavyweight. That makes no sense to me. But none of those fighters were as big as you think they are. When you meet them in real life, I'm 6'3". Of course, at that time I was probably 350. But they were all just way smaller than what I imagined, except for two. Shane Carwin was an absolute monster, and Anthony Rumble Johnson was just a beast. Everybody else, Tito, Randy Couture, Ken Shamrock, Mike Tyson, for that fact, all a lot smaller than what you think they are when you meet them in real life. Yeah. Brandon Sutton, it wasn't the slam that knocked him out, though. They've talked about that multiple times. The slam did not knock him out. The back of his head hitting the mat's not knocked. When they came down so hard that Rampage headbutted him. He didn't mean to, but they came down. Rampage headbutted him. That's what knocked him out. But yeah, it was scary, dude. That was nasty. Yeah, Rey Mysterio was. Most of the wrestlers were the same way, though. I met a lot of them, and the first time I went to a CCW event. I was only probably 14, 15 years old. And I was already bigger than most of those guys. Well, Brandon, Bob Sapp had no. He had no fortitude. He had no grit. He was just trying to make a check. Spent the whole last half of his career taking falls for money. I did. I was watching that UFC when that happened, and completely missed the fact that Matt Hughes was unconscious. I had no idea. But I mean, I guess technically Matt did still win because Matt went unconscious because no, technically Carlos Newton won the fight because Carlos Newton choked Matt out, and when Matt fell, Carlos hit his head, knocked himself out. So technically, Matt went out first, so Carlos Newton won that fight. Carlos Newton was a hell of a fighter. Probably could have been welterweight champ for a long time. But yeah, Matt Hughes, they pretty much gave that to him, but nobody knew. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of watching grown men violently attack one another. I've always liked it a lot. But anyway. Yeah, Matt Brown was a badass, Kyle. No doubt. And wasn't it Matt Brown that was a heroin addict before he got into MMA too? Pretty sure I'm right about that. There towards the end of his career, it seemed like Matt Brown. So I think Matt Brown was the one who ended. I forgot his name now. He was a WEC champ. Pretty boy, blonde hair. I think he was the first one to beat Uriah Faber. I think he was the first one to beat Uriah Faber. But then after that, it was like every fight he got in, him and Uriah, actually. So like every fight after that, neither one of them could go any further because every time they got in a fight, they broke their hands. Ground Fog, I don't remember that one. I remember when Frank Shamrock uh, kicked Oleg Toktarov. That was in Birmingham. It wasn't UFC. I don't remember what banner it was under, but Frank Shamrock, Oleg Toktarov rushed him, knocked him on his back, and he upkicked Oleg and knocked him out. Because I didn't think anybody would ever beat Oleg. That dude's Russian Sambo was just so good, he took everybody down. It was kind of boring. He didn't do a whole lot with him when he got him down there, but he controlled everybody he fought. And then he went on to have I guess it's been a successful movie career. He's played a bunch of small parts. The most memorable one was probably in Bad Boys. You guys remember the movie Bad Boys when they go to the big, huge mansion in Miami? One right on the waterfront. There's all those bodyguards there. And a few minutes in, they find one of the bodyguards like cut up into pieces in the sink. And that was Oleg Toktarov. Yeah, Boss Rutan was a badass. Boss Rutan was fucking. He was just mean too. Dude, the way Boss Rutan beat most people is probably the most painful way to lose a fight. He loved kicking people in the liver. Your whole body just shuts down. It's a pain. You get punched in the nose and keep coming. You cannot keep fighting if you take a direct blow to the liver like that. Yeah, Matt got brain damage. Tried to beat a train. Got hit by a train. Lucky to be alive. He's had a lot of issues since. It messed up the frontal lobe in his brain, so he can't really control his emotions, and his reasoning abilities are very limited now. Yeah, Kyle, I'm pretty sure that was the story with Matt Brown. I probably know way too much about a lot of these fighters. I got way into it though. Yeah. RKHU ain't shitting, son. But you know what? A lot of people don't remember about that fight. The end was so good that we tend to forget that 25-minute fight, 22 minutes of that fight wasn't very entertaining. They were both so good that they just kind of counteracted one another. It just wasn't a super exciting fight until the end. But when Robbie Lawler walked out and tucked his arms behind him and stuck his head out with that lip split clean up to his nose and spewed blood at Rory, the most badass thing I've ever seen, dude. I mean, it just cemented me being a Robbie Lawler super fan anyway. And, when he was in that interview, somebody was talking about him taking somebody's back, and he was like, I have no intentions of taking his back. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Robbie said, I'm going to take his soul. I love Robbie Lawler, man. Yeah. I said, go back and watch that fight, though. Try to watch it from beginning to end. And I guarantee you'll end up fast forwarding to the last few minutes of it, because it really wasn't. The end was so good it made it one of the best fights of all time. But the entire fight itself, probably wasn't as exciting as the Diego Sanchez. Oh shit, I forgot his name. Clay Guida. That was just a 1,000-mile-an-hour slobber knocker. But yeah, Griffin versus Bonner was epic. It sure was. There was a night I knew I was no longer going to be the only UFC fan in my town. You know, there was 2 or 3 of us that even knew what it was. I knew that night that was all going to change. I read Forrest Griffin's book. Very good read if you're into that. And he tells a story about when he was at University of Georgia. Him and some of his football buddies they all jumped in a Jeep Wrangler and rode over to Georgia Tech. You know, which is a pretty good drive. But they went to the Georgia Tech campus to pick on the tech nerds. It didn't take them long at all. They seen one walking down the sidewalk. It was like there was a road and a sidewalk and this big grassy hill that dropped off pretty steep. They said he'd seen this kid walking through there, arm full of books, real brainy looking kid. And they decided they was going to fuck with him. So they got out and, knocked his books out of his hands, picking on him, just being bullies. And said, they got into a tussle with the kid and Forrest threw him down that embankment. So they were about to get in the Jeep and leave. And the kid crashed at the top of that hill. Wanted some more. So they went at it again. Forrest tossed him off the hill again down the embankment. So about the 4th time he did it, that kid came to the top and looked Forrest in the eyes and said, how far are you willing to go, buddy? Because I'm willing to die. And Forrest said that was the first fight I ever lost. He's like, that's when I realized you don't have to get knocked out or tapped out to lose a fight. He's like, if your opponent is willing to go further than you are, you can't beat that guy. If he's willing to fight to the death, you can't beat him. Open what box so you can go to bed? I don't know what you're talking about, Bear Doom. I want to see what was worth doxing yourself on IG. Is it something on my phone? And Angie, you're right. Fedor Emelianenko was probably the greatest of all time. Dana White don't want to admit it. But, I mean, he sent all of his champs over there for Fedor to annihilate. No, I don't have a message from you, Doom. I don't know what you're talking about, buddy. Huh. You might have to explain. Oh, you want to know what I unboxed? It was the Hogue Doug Ritter fixed blade. I'm sorry I didn't wipe it off. I had to touch the edge up on it after I got it. It wasn't very sharp. I mean, it was sharp enough to use, but not how I wanted it. Yeah, that's what I got right there. S45 VN, about a 4.5-inch blade. Super comfortable. And I'll be honest, as good as Doug Ritter's ergonomics are, this knife is not a bit more comfortable than that Spyderco enough. I was really shocked how comfortable that Spyderco was. Yeah. And I'm out on the slap competition, and I'll tell you why. I don't want to diss on anybody's entertainment because I understand it's entertaining. That's not a sport. That's not a fight. The reason I like the UFC is because of the one rule that the referee explains to every fighter: defend yourself at all times. That's a tough guy. You have to defend yourself at all times. The fact that a grown man will stand there and let somebody possibly knock them out cold without defending themselves, that is stupidity. But I get it. It is entertaining. Yeah, I don't care about my address, dude. I give it out to all kind of people. Whatever. Somebody sends me anthrax and kills me, I was gonna die anyway eventually. Troy, I don't even know what it costs, but I think it's right about the same money as the Spyderco. Now, don't get me wrong. I wish, I do wish both of them were a little cheaper, but for what I see some other fixed blades going for, I guess using that comparison, um, I guess I'll say they're worth it. They're very nice. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you can go wrong there if you don't have an issue with the price. Cain Velasquez was an animal at sea level. You get that guy a mile up in Mexico City, that was a different story. He gassed out like I do walking to the mailbox. I don't know who just asked that, but yeah, Brandon, something I hate to answer for him, but he did. Now keep in mind, guys, JN doesn't have social media, so that's why we haven't seen pictures of it. But yeah, I appreciate the craftsmanship of that knife. It's just a little small for me. I know Apex, I train at Pikes Peak. Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. There, Denver. There's several places you can train to get used to that altitude. But that's awesome, Troy. I would. That's one of those knives though that I like. I think it's something every knife collector should own, but not enough to buy one in Magna Cut when I already have the 20 CV version. And the 20 CV on it's decent. It's not great, but I never used mine because it was a gift. I'm sure a lot of you guys don't know this, but they. Well, Billy, I mean, I don't know, man. You could train at Pikes Peak, and I don't know it. But anyway, my RSK was a gift for the first year we did Knives Live. Several people in the community, and I apologize, I can't remember them all, but I think it was Big Red and Therapeutic Edge and Maddie and maybe Zach. I'm sorry, I don't remember who all it was now. I feel horrible, but they all pitched in and bought me an RSK and had it engraved Knives Live 2021. So, can't bring myself to use it because I don't want to scratch it up. It's that's really a memory piece for me. But anyway, guys, I was planning on 30 minutes. I'm at an hour 45. I'm still on free StreamYard. As it stands now, it looking like I'm going to run out of time this month. You only get so many hours you can go live on StreamYard, so I may have messed that up by stretching this out a little too far. But I am very sleepy and about to piss myself, so I'm going to call it. Look there. Carco, thank you very much, buddy. I very much appreciate that. I've explained that in the past. My videos don't make any money. Everything I've made off YouTube has been viewer funded, and to be honest, that means a lot more to me than Google sending me a check. So thank you very much. But guys, I got to get, like I said, I got to get some sleep. Got stuff to do in the morning, and I've been holding it way too long. Starting to feel a little nauseous. But anyway, you guys know I appreciate any amount of time y'all spend with me. Truly, truly appreciate you people. Peace. Love y'all.